Why? Well, because they said this. This was their response to people complaining about the cord. This thing was made to be played right beside the console. So that's why you don't have you have to go up and hit the button to do stuff on the console. You can't, the joysticks that control every aspect of it because they wanted you to hit like console here and you here. Effectively, that's what this is. This will be made to sit in front of like a small monitor or TV, and you hook in. Like my thought was, this would go right into the USB port on your television.
Mm-hmm.
This goes in the HDMI cable, and you sit there and play. I had it hooked up to a monitor at work, and I've never heard this thing make a sound.
Oh yeah.
I don't have monitor. I don't have sound on my monitor. I've just got an HDMI to VGA. Mm-hmm. I know it'll play fine, but this thing could easily hold a battery because
you could put one right there, literally.
Yeah, you can see if you look real far in there, you could turn my alone. You can actually see the Pi. It's. I wasn't sure I was going to have room to do it. Like I said, I saw one other guy do one of these, and it was real, even by my standards, of half-assed, because what he did was this thing right here was gone, and it just stuck out about that far, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he took the cord and just spliced the USB on the end of the cord and just wrapped it around the back and just plugged it into the top.
Oh.
Who the hell wants to see that?
Yeah.
So I thought, man, I bet I could fit that whole thing in there. But if you look in there, see that red cable?
Mm-hmm.
Now see how there's black, and then you see that little board on top of the other board? That's the Pi Zero.
Yeah, it's so small.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. You're like, no, there's no way you can do this. Again, I'm not breaking a ton of new ground here. No one's done this type of stick and it made it look good. And again, this offers you a lot of extra benefits at the Super Nintendo. But I've already seen some guy put a Super Nintendo, this in a Super Nintendo with the batteries. So it had one cord coming out, and it was to the HDMI, and that was it.
Wow.
But you had to destroy the controller.
Yeah.
Right, which. No big deal. There's a lot of them, but I don't personally. And those things are expensive.
Yeah.
I wanted to get a Super Nintendo controller wouldn't fit my budget.
Mm-hmm.
This does. And the other thing I could have done is just stuck it in a box. And I thought, hey, I've got a shitload of Xboxes sitting around. Put it in a box. Well, what do you could take the Raspberry Pi has a little box like this. You could put that in the box. It's pointless. Mm-hmm. So I was like. So what am I, so it was all from the beginning, before I talked to you, I was going to put it in something if I was going to do it, and that's why it ended up being that. But yeah, it's so small, it uses so little power that it would blow your mind. I left it on all day and played games all day and had it run Star Fox and shit, the heightiest stuff I could on it. And you could feel the slightest bit of the tiniest little bit of warmth. And that was at the end of the day. You run them forever.
Yeah. Now, is there anything that the Pi Zero can't... you were talking about the mod in the Xboxes, and is there anything that RetroPie can't do that the Xbox can do?
Well, the Xbox can run Xbox games.
Okay, true.
The Pi Zero is still more powerful than the Xbox, but the emulation is not quite... It's an ARM processor. It's different, okay? The Zero can't run N64 games of any consequence, okay? The 3 can, but it won't fit.
Right.
The Zero is a low-power, low-profile card, specifically made for tiny projects.
But if you want to do anything up to the N64...
The Pi 3 could do it. Pi 3 is $35, $40.
But, if you want to do anything... up to the N64, so anything before the N64, that
I did a rush job on the software on this because I didn't exactly know what I was doing. I just got the software today. the ROMs. It runs everything from the Atari 2600 up to what's more advanced, the Super Nintendo or the Game Boy Advance. Which one's more advanced, would you say?
It's about the same, yeah.
So it'll run, and it will probably run, I didn't put any arcade stuff on it. It's just console stuff. Actually, there's arcade stuff, but I haven't enabled it because I'm learning how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's Linux. and the thing about the card that makes it tough is the Raspberry Pi Zero has one available USB port, no Wi-Fi, no network. So I've got to do everything out of one port, and it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
The Zero is specifically for, like, I forgot to put two things on here in their BIOS files. So right now I've got an almost complete list of Game Boy Advance games on here.
Oh.
But I don't have the BIOS on there, so they won't work.
Right.
And I've also got, and this might interest you, I've got a complete list of Famicom Disk System games.
Oh, that's neat.
But I don't have the ROM on there, so I've got to take it apart again at some point and put those two ROMs on it, which is a pain in the ass.
I guess the only thing that you could possibly do to make that better is to somehow enable SD card access, without having to disassemble it. And I don't know how you could do
the
that.
SD card's not the issue, because you know how you add stuff to this? Mm-hmm. This is whack. You got a second? I'm not going to take too much time.
No, that's fine.
So the first thing you do is download this image, okay, which was the RetroPie image. Put it on a card. This is before you put it in the stick. Run it once. Okay, it goes through does a bunch of stuff. Then you hook the stick up. You run it again. It detects your stick, and it lets you configure it. And the stick, everything works. You configure it right up front. And every game I've played, I've had no problems. And pushing these two buttons escapes the game and goes to the main menu. It's all good. It's like GameX, right? Mm-hmm. You run into some problems with the buttons you chose because, like, for example, Nintendo's buttons are backwards from these. And so, and since this has I use these as shoulder buttons like the Nintendo's got. Mm-hmm. But most of the games I play on here that are on here only use at most 6 buttons. Right. I don't think there's any that use any more, and most don't even use that many. So you can configure them on the fly. Can you configure them per emulator? I haven't just figured out how to do it yet. Mm. But what you have to do is, so once you do that, you've got a card in here with the basic RetroPie setup. And it comes right up, and your joystick's configured, but you don't have no ROMs. So you're thinking, I'll just take the SD card, throw it in the PC. No. That's the first big headache about working with these things. Your PC can't read these cards. It can't read all of them. And it can't read the part that has the ROMs because it's Linux, and Windows can't read Linux. Mm. So what do? All right. Well, you can use Wi-Fi and FTP-in, right? No. This thing don't got Wi-Fi. This thing don't have a network port.
Oh.
So it's a Pi Zero.
Okay, right,
okay?
Right.
So if it was a Pi 3, no problem. Yeah, so what do? Here's what you do. You take a USB drive, you format it, okay? You make a directory called RetroPie on it. Mm-hmm. You take it out. In the case of this thing, I take it apart. I switch this connector into right now it's in power. Mm-hmm. I switch it into I unplug the joystick's USB and put this one in there. Right. Then I run another cable to power it. Mm-hmm. So I've got access to this. Mm-hmm. I put the USB drive in it. I boot it up once. What it does is it writes a raw directory format on the card, which means it goes in that RetroPie directory and puts a directory for BIOS, directly for ROMs, directly for something else. And then, like any games you have installed in emulators, it'll put a list of the games that go there. This is where the ROMs go. You pop that out. It's empty, except for these directory names. You put it in your PC. You dump the ROMs to that USB drive. And this is where I fucked up, because I didn't understand how it worked. So the first time I did this, I dumped a bunch of ROMs on the USB drive. I put it back in, and I went to lunch. I thought, okay, well, I came back, and it was just sitting at a prompt, a Linux prompt. I was like, I couldn't do anything. I was like, what the fuck? So I unplugged the drive. I plugged my little keyboard USB into it so I could have keyboard access. Mm-hmm. Nothing. I was like, son of a gun. I didn't know what to do. Well, then I read it can take up to 10 hours to write those ROMs because it's so many, and you're writing from USB to SD card. I was like, son of a bitch, I bet I interrupted it. So I went out at lunch and it got a 32 gig USB drive, which is the same size as the card that's in this. I formatted it again. I put everything on it I wanted. Everything. This was the 8. I had an 8. And I put some of the stuff. So I put everything. I was like, I'm fucking gonna do it at once. I put it all on there. I let it boot up, and I just let it sit. It came up to that prompt again, and it just and by the way, it would not work after I did it the first time.
Oh my
It always came up to that prompt. I'm like, fuck, what the hell? And I just let it sit there overnight. I went home. I left it at work, and I came back the next day, and it had went to the point where it was ready to configure the joystick. So something had happened. I was like, okay, I think I got it. I put it back together, plugged the joystick back in, turned it back on. It came up, ROMs, good to go. Well, everything was groovy except I had forgot on the second USB stick to include the BIOS ROMs. And a couple of the systems, for one thing, I don't like Japanese NES stuff won't work because I don't have that ROM. Famicom disk stuff won't work. Game Boy Advance stuff won't work. Now, I've got the BIOS, but I forgot to put it on there. So now what I've got to do is take this apart again, go through the whole rigmarole again. Not all of it, but I've got to take a USB card with BIOS directory and then dump all my BIOSes on it so it'll put it back on here.
Oh.
You know, so it's just like the Xbox. It's always a bunch of bullshit. Now, once this card's done, I can freely dupe it with a few programs to make duplicates, and then one card fits all. It will work on any Pi Zero I want.
So, for example, if I get a Pi Zero farther down the road, if you just make a copy of that card, then I can just pop it in and...
Yeah. And the stuff that's on here now, I didn't want anything that used a keyboard for the obvious reason. I haven't decided if I'm going to put any arcade stuff on it or not. It will run MAME stuff. There's MAME. I even put some ROMs on there, but I haven't enabled it. That's a whole other story. But I have a card that has the big 128. I've got a file. It's 128 gigs of flat-out action. It's just got a shit ton of stuff. It's like the Xbox sort of. It's got computer stuff. It's got arcade stuff. It's got everything. It's got videos for everything. It's got a presentation mode that's exactly like what you've got over there.
Hyperspin?
Yeah. Works. It's sharp. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I've got it. It's plug and play, you know. But it's not for the Zero.
Right.
So, but it's not something that's just like, I mean, really the actual making of the interface and stuff, not that tough. I mean, I had to learn as I went. What do I need to cut out of here? How am I going to make this fucking fit?
It's like Ben Heck. You're like Ben Heck?
Well, no. Because everyone's been putting these into things smaller than this. But this is, despite the fact it's huge, it's goofy.
It's really a good size if you ever wanted to do more, like add a battery or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, you've got...
Yeah.
I wanted to route the HDMI through this hole. Logistically, I couldn't do it. Despite the fact that it looks like it'd be no problem. It's the way the thing's set.
Yeah, you couldn't.
There was
double
enough tension.
Back on it. Yeah,
I couldn't do it. I tried today. I was like, I just can't get it in here. So it doesn't matter.
Right.
I thought about taking a memory card.
You know how many years?
And drilling a hole in it and putting it in here, and then having these sticking out the top of it. But I thought, no,
you know what's funny? You know how many years Brent has talked about building something exactly like that, and you just did it.
I told Brent. I told him. I was like, "Are you coming to the show this week?" He goes, "No." I was like, "You ought to come." He goes, "Why?" I was like, "Because I built that $20 controller Boat challenged me to make." He goes, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I built one." He goes, "You mean you built it already?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to put it together today at work." He goes, "Yeah, right." I was like, "I swear to God, I'm going to." You know? But my buddy watched me do this, and he was pretty impressed, you know? But, I mean, hey, I'm very proud of it. But it's nothing. I'm seriously, all I did was solder 4 wires. I mean, that's all there is to it. The software's a pain in the ass, but I'll get that knocked out. But it's nothing. It was nothing to do. I did it in a day. I had it done in a couple of hours, you know. So, but when you challenged me last week.
Lit a fire under you. That was great.
I knew I had a pie. I was like, well, fuck. I'll go ahead and do it. And I did. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's been the ultimate portable game. You should take it to work or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They even make little screens for the pies, and people make little Game Boys and stuff out of them. I don't know why, because you can use a PSP to do a very similar thing.
Well, yeah, but PSPs, they're not long for this world. They.
I don't know. There's a lot of them out there.
But you might be able to. I don't know. It would be an interesting thing to talk about somebody that knows about both platforms to see if doing it that way has any advantage.
I'll let you. I wasn't going to say
because I know the PSP, you can really do almost anything you want with it by this point.
I was going to say this as a surprise. I'm going to let you know since I showed you this. I ordered this for a project, and I got to looking at the pie, and I was like, I'm going to get me a 3, the newest one, $35. Got a deal on it, shipped. The reason I got that C64 off you, the broken one, I found the guy selling an interface that interfaces the keyboard to a USB port. Right, effectively it makes the Commodore 64 a USB keyboard. Okay. It also the board sets on the C64, right on the side, and it's got those 2 joystick ports. It enables both of them. There's ports that come out of it. They'll let you have 1-button joystick support for both joysticks. It hooks in the USB. I got all the breakout boards and everything I need, and I'm going to be putting my Pi in it, and it's going to be my portable, basically emulation computer. It's perfect. It's perfect, and you can do the same thing. They've got an Amiga set up on this thing that just boots straight up like Amiga. You can use WHDs. It's a great environment. Plus, you've got that HDMI coming out of it. The 3 has HDMI. It's got Bluetooth. It's got Wi-Fi on the board. It's got 4 full USB ports on it. Right? It's got everything you need. I'm going to mount it. I'm going to run all the ports out the back. I've already got the extension cable. I've got everything I need except for the key whiz. There's the damn key thing that does the keyboard. It's the one. That's what I've been waiting on from Amy Kit for all this time. When I get it done, it'll have a place to where I can unplug the SD card. Okay, and when I get done with it, it should play like all the classic computer stuff. And it should play it great. I've already tried. The software I've already put. That 128 gig card I got, already dumped it off, put it in, kicked the tires. It's great. Played the shit out of some freaking Miner 2049er. I've been playing a shitload of C64 stuff on it. It works awesome. It's dead on. It's real good. I haven't tried any Amiga stuff, I don't think, on it yet, but I've got everything. I've been kind of holding off because right now I've just got files. I want to use WHDs. It's going to be awesome. The thing's going to kick in for like under $60-$70.
That's great.
And you could build one for nothing. And I knew I had that C64 that had a bad sound chip on it. The board came right out. I've got it. It's fine. I didn't destroy anything to do it. And so the natural ports in the back of the C64 lets you run all the cabling. It's going to have not only is it going to have HDMI, it's going to have composite out. It's going to have stereo sound and the yellow jack, so you can do HDMI or it can do composite.
Right.
No one uses that, but I'm going to wire it up.
You can put it into the Elgato. You put it into the capture.
I don't need to, but I can.
Right. Well, if you ever want to do a C64 game or something like that,
like Spectrum stuff, Coco stuff, it's all there.
Yeah.
So it's. That's the main machine I'm working on. This was nothing. Just because you mentioned, I was like, I'll do it. So when I get that done, it's going to be awesome. And once I get it done and get it all ironed out, if you ever want to do it, I'll have you set up.
That's awesome.
And it'll play all the shit this does, obviously. But this thing is tons faster, quad core.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot faster. It's a hell of